welcome back to Beyond Tech from Stuttgart. So I'm Mike Fry, I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Mercedes-Benz.io, and I'm here with Vaibhav, and today we're going to be talking about e-commerce. Mercedes-Benz.io builds and operates Mercedes-Benz e-commerce and marketing platforms for cars and after sales, and we drive the Mercedes-Benz digital future. So on e-commerce is one of the game changers for Mercedes-Benz, and we're going to talk in detail a little bit about e-commerce, but first let's get started with Vaibhav. What's your first exposure to technology?
My first experience or the memory of technology goes back in 90s, I'm a 90s kid. And when I encountered the first remote control car, I think that is something still stuck in my mind, because at that moment I was really curious how this thing is working and what is the tech behind it. And I was already very much fascinated by the cars, you know, those toy cars. And now you can see I ended up working for Mercedes. What could be better than that?
Yeah, we got to get you a toy car.
Yeah, yes, from Mercedes.
E-commerce is a pretty straightforward thing. We know it pretty well, but how would you explain e-commerce to someone who knows nothing about technology?
Have you heard of this old fairy tale of the land of milk and honey? A magic land where people spend their days relaxing in the sun, and everything they need and want finds a way to them. For centuries, people viewed this as the essence of a life in luxury. And today, e-commerce offers us just that. A technology which reads our wishes from our lips, even literally, which guesses and learns what we need even better than ourselves, and sends everything our way with minimum effort for us. For me, e-commerce is where cutting-edge technology fulfills this century-old promise of a life in luxury.
I think this is really interesting because this has happened to me early in around 2013, I remember, because I had to explain it to my father. He owns a clothing store, a real clothing store, and he was asking me, brick and mortar, and he was really asking me, what is e-commerce? So first I really simplified it to him. Commerce means business, and E here stands for electronic. So business done using electronic medium, be it mobile or computer or something like that. That's how I started. And I really explained it to him like, here the business is done without human interaction. And I think this is something which was really cool for him. Yeah.
So major improvements with SAP Commerce Cloud, but how do we avoid that, building that monolith?
Yeah, in general, seeing the current scale of e-commerce in mind and seeing how the big enterprises are going digital first. Yeah, you can see like all the big enterprises are transforming themselves and they all want to go digital first. So I think we should follow a more modern approach towards software development, and also a bit more flexible in the terms which monolith doesn't give us. The new approach which is going on in the market as a big trend is the microservices approach.
When you have, for example, multiple development teams and maybe also different business organizations who are responsible for features, a monolithic platform can become quite challenging. It's because a monolith is built as a single, large code base, making it difficult to scale and manage. This, in turn, slows down innovation and creates bottlenecks in your development process. So, how we can avoid this? One possible solution is to adopt a composable commerce architecture. This approach allows you to break down your e-commerce system into smaller and manageable components that can be easily developed, tested, and deployed by different teams. For instance, you could use SAP Commerce Cloud for transactional features only, like cart, checkout, and order. And for other business capabilities, as the example product, price, or search, you could solution a best-of-breed solution or build your own microservice applications to create a flexible, scalable, and efficient ecosystem. By embracing composable commerce and focusing on specific capabilities, you can avoid the pitfalls of a monolithic platform and create a more agile, adaptable, and resilient e-commerce system.
I think we should follow the microservices approach towards the software development. Why? Because it gives us more flexibility to develop, to deploy, and to scale your services. independently, right? Because then in case of microservices, the components are not very tightly coupled to each other. They have a coupling, but it's very loose coupling. So they talk to each other via API, for example. And I think this is a good approach to the software development, and you don't end up building a new monolith.
Right. Now you've opened up a little can of worms. Now, there's never a free lunch.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
What are the downsides with
The downsides?
microservice architecture?
I think the downsides on microservice architecture is about the maturity of your organization. So if you are starting new, and you start really with microservices and you are a small company, then it becomes really complex for you to manage all of them. But on the other side, if you are a very big enterprises, then it's easier for you. And if you already have a developed system, you start breaking that system down into microservices, you already know the business part. You're trying to resolve your technology part only, right? First, you need to solve the business problem. So I think this is more important here, in my point of view.
What I've always found is it's hard to debug them. Just like when we started doing object-oriented programming, when you have things happening in lots of different places, when there's a problem, it gets really hard.
That's true.
To find. Well, thank you. Part of microservices is domain-driven design. What's all the hype about domain-driven design?
I think this is really cool, because every time people talk about microservices, as you said, they always link domain-driven design with that, and I think that makes sense. Because you cannot have in your ecosystem thousands of microservices lying around without belonging to a parent, without belonging to a business problem they are trying to resolve, right? And that's exactly domain-driven design is fixing. So as the name says, DDD, it's design done around domains. And what are domains? They're spheres of the knowledge, and knowledge, it means here the business part, basically. So what DDD says, bring your code as close as to the business, right? So keep the business problem in mind and do your interfaces and your domain models according to the business and try to solve that problem.
Do you build domains around data types or processes or?
I can take one example for that.
Yeah, give me an example.
I can take one example for that. Like your business is coming to you and say, hey, we need an order management. Yeah? This could be a business problem which you would try to resolve. Now you need to. Yeah, it is for always. Yeah, it is for us and for a lot of other enterprises. Then you start simplifying. This is a complex problem, and this is what domain-driven design says. You start simplifying the problem by breaking it into chunks, breaking into domain models. So what I would do, or what you would say as a business guy, you will say, okay, I need order management. I would ask you, hey, what do you think is interacting with an order management? You would say, I need a product for doing order management. I need a customer who is placing an order. I need a payment. I need a delivery. So things like this, and I also need a fulfillment system, for example. And this is how I will start breaking down the problem, but coming from you, from the business. And now when we discuss about product, the payment and delivery and the order itself, now all my interfaces and domain models should be done around these business problems.
Right.
And then it simplifies your life and my life, because we are talking the same language in future. Then after 3 weeks, you will come to me and say, hey, guys, I need something new in product. Can you help me with that? So when we talk the same language, we resolve half of the problem of these big enterprises, in my point of view. So you bring business and tech together, and this is the task of domain-driven design.
Yeah, and then we deliver fast and exactly what the business is looking for. So, what do you believe the core features of a strong e-commerce platform are?
I believe it's important to have a user-friendly interface with a sleek and luxurious design so customers can find what they need quite easily. It's of course very important to be mobile-friendly, and I would say the cherry on top is actually a smooth integration of cool features such as wish list, stock notification, product comparison, and many more. In the end, this is what distinguishes a normal experience from a premium digital experience.
Yeah, I think everybody could have a different opinion on that, but my opinion or my take on this is it should have especially four core features. So the first one is customizability. So seeing how the enterprises are changing, as we discussed before, your platform has to be highly customizable according to the need of the customer. He should be able to add his custom code, change some things in your existing platform.
Is that like an open source model?
You can call it not open source model, but you should try to provide your platform as a service maybe, and then customer should be able to add on his services on top. That is something I see, or his interfaces and things like that. That is one part. Then the second part I see you should be multi-channel or omni-channel, because seeing the current scale of customer and how he is interacting with your software system, he wants to do it with car. He can say, I want to place an order from my car, as we discussed before, maybe with an AI assistant. You should say, yeah, I just want to place an order with my AI assistant or with my mobile or with my web. So you should be omni-channel or multi-channel. Then the third part I see is you should have really core commerce features like product, payment, order and delivery and things like that, which are really core, which you will also do when you go to a physical store. So you should just replicate it with the physical store. I think that is core that you anyways need. And then the fourth one is scalability. Everyone wants to do digital first, and if your platform is not scalable as per the demand, I think then it becomes also real complex.
Yeah, you can run into a ceiling.
Exactly. Then if you are following these 4 features, in my point of view, you are setting the bar, and then rest on can be added later on.
All right, awesome, great. Thanks for that. So, keys to deploying and delivering and building microservice architecture.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about.
Yeah, we talked about it. We touched upon it already, right? Like, I see the aspect of microservices development from 2 sides. So the first side is how you plan your microservices, how you implement, and how you test them. So I think this is first part which I see, like one cluster of topics which you should keep in mind. And then the second cluster of topics which you should keep in mind is how autonomous your microservices are and how they are communicating to each other. So if you have these topics in your mind and you are developing your microservices, I think you are safe. So touching upon the first one, so for example, when developing your microservices, as we discussed before, you should try to follow domain-driven design approach. While deploying them, you should deploy them in the cloud. Yeah, you should automate them as much as possible. Try to use Docker and Kubernetes and things like that. You should try to follow monitoring and logging, as you said, because they become very complex over time. How would you debug them? If you don't have a good monitoring and logging solution, it becomes also really complex for you to maintain them, right? I think these are some of the core things which we should keep in mind while the development and planning of microservices. On the other side is the part how autonomous they are. Are they really self-contained? Are they not depending on 5 different microservices because they are called micro, right? They should be really micro. They should not become another monolith for you, right? That is something you should keep in mind in terms of being autonomous and how they are talking to each other. The communication between those components or those services should be very lightweight. For example, you could use an API approach. So they are talking to each other and there is a clear segregation of responsibilities. So this is what I see are the core
helps reduce the coupling, but what about the coupling between the data in the background? Do you build all your microservices on one data source?
No, you
should
should
create separate data sources to get that isolation?
I think this is really good point, and we touched upon it as well on SAP Commerce side, right? When I said about relational database.
Right.
So if you have one database, it's really difficult to decouple them in my point of view. So every service should have its own configuration, should have its own data, and then only it can become a self-contained system. It can also happen that it needs the data from the other system, but then it should cache it on its site or maybe store it in its local database and make it independent.
Right. Now my experience has been that I'm almost always started with the monolith, and there's a movement out there. Fowler started it called anti-microservices or something like that, where he actually advocated starting to build your monolith because you're unsure about your breakup in your domain design. What's been your experience, in this way? Have you always started with building some sort of monolith as a POC and then broken it up later? Have you done the big upfront design?
Yeah, I think for normally for my case, how I did it is systems are normally existing. So all the systems are mostly legacy systems.
So somebody's already built the
Somebody
monolith.
has already built the monolith, and you got that crazy task of now distributing that monolith into distributed systems. Yeah, that's how I have also followed.
So we're at the last question, the big one. How do you think technology is going to affect us in the future, and how is it going to impact our lives?
I first see like the 4 pillars of the future technology which will impact us in one way or the other way. The first I see is how AI will impact our life, how artificial intelligence will change. The second one I see is the use of blockchain technology, because I think it's also on a roll, and especially for us in e-commerce, the transactions and all will change. I believe so. The third one I see is Internet of Things. This is also coming around into our homes and everywhere. I think this will change. And the fourth one I see is augmented and virtual reality. These are the 4 core pillars I personally see that which will impact our lives. And when you talk about the impact personally on me, I see the impact also from the two sides. On one side, I am a consumer of these things, but on the other side, I'm a tech guy. I'm a producer of all of that, right?
Right.
So I see the impact from two directions. So as a consumer, I would expect all these systems to change how I order, for example, via any e-commerce store, right? I would expect my product to be delivered via the drone or via an automated vehicle that no one is coming and everything is delivered, for example. That would be one aspect. I would expect more and more personalization using an AI. I should not even say, I click. You should know what I'm planning to buy. That's the use of artificial intelligence you should use in your systems. So that's the side I see as a consumer. But on the other side, as we discussed, as a producer, things will also change. And especially the way we create our softwares. I think this will be hugely impacted in my point of view, especially in the terms of code generation, testing, bug detection. I think this will be mostly automated in future, because in these cases you really do not need a human expertise or creativity, right? You need creativity on the other side. I think that other side will not be impacted that much, and that other side in my point of view is how you design your interfaces. That is one side. How you do requirements engineering, right? How you create algorithms, not how you develop via the code those algorithms, but what is the logic? Or what is the business logic where you need human expertise and creativity? I think those things will not be impacted much.
Yeah. The basic things get automated more and more. Yeah, I think I see it the same way. All right, so thanks for joining us, and Vaibhav, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike, here. I think it was a great opportunity to talk to you about e-commerce. I'm glad I'm able to contribute.
Yes, I even learned some things. So this is Mike Fry and Vaibhav Khatri from Beyond Tech. See you next time.
See you next time. Yeah.